Good evening, folks. This is Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, giving you a space weather update at 9:55 p.m. on September 10th, 2017. Folks, we had a X8.2 flare today, kicking off the sun at 16:05 UTC, which is about 12 hours from now. 12 hours ago, I mean. And it stayed in M class for around 8 hours. For 8 hours of power here. We're down into C class. So what's going on? What is going on with the sun? What does this X flare mean for us? Well, first, let's take a look at the yearly average sunspot numbers from 1610 to 2017. And let's talk about the sunspot minimums. The Maunder minimum, the Dalton minimum, the Glassberg minimum, and the ongoing grand solar minimum, which we're entering into. And let's talk about solar flare history. In 1859 was the Carrington event, which is a solar storm of this in recorded history. It's the solar storm of the century. It's the largest geomagnetic event that we know about, except for some glacial data from way earlier. This event occurred in 1859 during not a particularly exciting sunspot cycle. Not during a minimum, not during a particular maximum, down here. And then there were similar events in 1989 here. This is during solar maximum. And recently in 2012, a large X flare kicked off the back of the sun and missed us. And that puts it right here during this small or weaker, in fact, the double peak cycle that announced us entering into the grand solar minimum. So these events are not associated with peaks or valleys, they're more random. So what does that mean for us? What could that mean for us? Well, this video is going to be part data and part conjecture. But what I can tell you is that after that event happened, we came in from geomagnetic quiet and the KP index started to react. And that's the region right here that we're talking about in question here. A lot of magnetic activity. Look at this activity here. I'm about to show you the actual event from the front of the sun. This is from our, right here. So this is the X8.2 we're looking at right here at 16:05 UTC. Let's get it back. Boom. There it is. And you can see at this point that we have a halo. Well, folks, that means that energy is headed this way. And I looked at ISWA. It looks like this energy is headed this way around the 13th. I'll quickly bring you back to ISWA here, and we can see, boom, there's the flare banging out perpendicular to us. Here's the sun going this way. But if you look at NASA's model, it doesn't hit us. Come look here from an oblique view. Boom, there's some energy from the X flare right there, kind of passing us by. Here's the sun here, or the Earth here, and there we're going through the energy. Boom! It's going to smack us, right? Watch it. There! There is going to be a huge pressure shock effect on our planet. And it's not just from this X8.2. I mean, this is a pretty active time. Let's come back here. Remember the giant solar flare of 2017. There's the great solar flare. There it is. There's the X9 flare after the X1 flare. Back on the 6th there. Look at all these other high M's and X flares that have been kicking off since then. And here's the event that just happened now. So this 8.2 caused us to go into radiation storm again here. Look at this off the charts. Let's go to ACE real time. You could see the event here. This is very interesting, folks. I want you to look at this. We were just in planetary K index of planetary quiet, geomagnetic quiet. And let's go back here to ACE real time. And right at the event when that X8.2 happened, the solar wind speed went from 500 kilometers per second to 300 instantaneously. It stopped. It slowed down. The temperature dropped dramatically. And here you can see the density increased dramatically and is rising. But this phenomenon, and look, the other charts are going into storm. So we're currently in a proton storm, which is not like geomagnetic storm at the other end of the spectrum. But that just happened from this X8.2. Let me take you back to LASCO, and we'll look from the backside of the sun in the event. It's really severe from here. Boom! And it even screws up the instrument. So the current readings are all screwed up. And I'm going to let these run. This thing was amazing. A lot of ejecta in this CME. Halo on the right side here. Earth facing. Halo. Take a look. There's the last M event. Boom! And here it comes here. Halo. What does this all mean? What's going on? Well, if you guys follow Suspicious Observer, you know in this video, and you know from our community, that geomagnetic events cause fluctuations in the grid. And during the last geomagnetic storm, which got up to K8, there's evidence to support our ideas that the electrical flux on the planet actually affects the grid. And here's the evidence. This helicopter crash might have come from it, etc. The northern lights came all the way down and were visible in Tennessee. This is all from the electric universe. The electricity and the electric coming from that CME, the energy, is charging the planet and causing these plasma effects. Interestingly enough, the last X flare we had, tripping off the 8.1 in Mexico, mainstream science, there are so many headlines saying that there's no relationship to this, which is absolutely ludicrous. Look at the power of this CME that's blowing out here. Okay? This ejecta, boom, is headed our way, and it's just going to give us an oblique glancing blow. Look at ISWA here. We're going through. This is going to cram by us and create a shock wave sometime during the 13th. If you come up here and look at the timestamp, 13th, it's going to be passing by us. So folks, don't leave out the possibility of another major earthquake, the 13th or the 14th, in that region. And this is after we're dealing with Hurricane Irma that has absolutely wiped out the west coast of Florida. Nothing to do with global warming. It has to do with our sun and the way our sun reacts in cyclic patterns. The sun's energetic patterns come and go, and they change through time on the 11-year solar cycle pattern. And that's accentuated by the precession of the equinoxes and other celestial mechanics and other charging mechanisms of our sun. And we're about to go into a grand solar minimum, and we already have the data that is proving from Svensmark and CERN that increased cosmic ray flux causes increased cloud nucleation, which causes cooling, flooding, more precipitation. Now, the energy that we're getting off, the increased energy that we're getting off of our sun currently, I mean, this is epic. I don't believe there's a time in history where the geomagnetic activity has been this intense in such a short period of time. I've been watching the sun for years, and I really don't recall this much activity. So we're in a time of change and flux. And as our shields weaken, as we enter the grand solar minimum and the magnetic field weakens and cosmic rays increase, these amazing once-in-a-lifetime weather events, geologic calamities, the catastrophic geology that we're going to see, and earthquakes and volcanism, this is all just cycles repeating from the past. These are not new things. We can read about it in the literature. It's there to be seen and understood, and it is going to happen again, and we're witnessing it happen again. Folks, this is not your fault. This has nothing to do with global warming. It's just, that is all just cockamamie nonsense. What this is, these are cycles that have been happening time immemorial in the universe. I mean, as a geologist, I studied cycles for 8 years as an undergraduate and a graduate student. And I can show you the precession of the equinoxes that's expressing itself in sedimentary rocks since sedimentary rocks began being deposited in the Precambrian. I mean, that's the earliest we can go. This same cyclicity of catastrophic change on Earth with a 25,000 year periodicity has been going on for hundreds of millions of years without fail. The Great Year, the 26,500 year Great Year, is the history of that phenomenon, but just one cycle. And we're in a time of flux where we're entering in that phase of change in the Great Year. And this is just the beginning, folks. It's only going to get more intense and more bizarre as time goes on. The Carrington event, the Carrington flare, there's going to be more events like this and more bizarre events because of the activity of our sun. The primer fields are failing. The magnetic field on Earth is changing. And I would expect this to be back in the geomagnetic storm over the next 2 days at any point from the shockwave that's predicted by ISWA to be coming here on the 13th. So this is the first of my videos on conjecture about the grand solar minimum and space weather. I'll be doing more concise videos, but I just wanted to try to give you a heads up on this X8.2 and what we learned about it. So in synopsis, I mean, I was prepared. I have places to protect things electromagnetically. I have ground wires on my satellite system. I have metal boxes that are grounded where I can put sensitive electronic equipment. We have steel roofs. I know a little bit more than the general public, but you weren't warned about this geomagnetic storm by the mainstream media in general. They didn't tell you what could happen. The KP was at 8 for 18 hours over the last 3 days. If it had gotten to 9 or 10, the whole world would have changed. And the mainstream media didn't tell you that. So there's more to be revealed. So keep watching this channel. Please subscribe. Share this with your friends. And I'll be giving you more real information and real data in the coming days on what is really happening on the planet Earth. And this is not conjecture. These are the facts I'm going to be giving you. And I hope you stay to listen to the story. So hopefully this X8.2 is not going to do anything too catastrophic to the planet, but I imagine an earthquake watch is going to come up because the same time that this shock wave is going to come by Earth, we are going to be coupled with a coronal hole which is turning Earth facing in the next few days, and then we're going to be entering that solar wind stream soon. And that coupling of that and the shock wave from the X8.2, do not be surprised if there's not another large earthquake of catastrophic proportions sometime around the 13th or the 14th. Thanks for watching. Be safe, everyone.